Hello, friends, and welcome back. Today, let's talk about sweet potatoes. If you can hear me above the racket of all these crows making a lot of noise over here. Sweet potatoes. This is an excellent plant to grow as a permaculture plant, as a food forest ecosystem type plant. That is, if you're in a warm enough location. So this is a plant that's a tropical plant. It originates from Central and South America in the tropical parts of Central and South America. So when frost comes, the green, leafy green part above ground will die back to the ground. But if you're in a warm enough location, like probably around zone 9 or warmer, possibly in pockets also in zone 8, anywhere where you've got enough mulch on the ground to keep the roots from freezing, then it'll spring back in the spring. It'll pop back up and you can grow sweet potatoes. So, typically people think of growing sweet potatoes like annual crops. But, and of course with an annual crop, what you're doing is you're starting your slips and you're getting everything going in the spring and you let it grow all summer and then you harvest everything in the fall. And then you might hold back some of the smaller sweet potatoes to use as your seed potatoes for the following year. But basically it's an annual thing, and you harvest it all in the fall. Whereas if you grow this more like a part of the ecosystem, like I'm doing here, sort of permaculture style, you're actually growing it as a perennial plant rather than an annual, then you're going to want to do things a little bit differently. But let's talk about what this plant needs and how that can work. As far as soil, it actually does quite well in pretty poor soil. So these Florida soils are not a problem for it at all. In fact, it grows really good in the sand that we have here in Florida. They like a pretty good bit of moisture, so the Florida summers with our rainy season, sandy soil, so that it does drain. It's perfect conditions really for sweet potato. They grow best in terms of producing the tubers that you can eat, the actual sweet potatoes themselves, in close to full sun. Now they can grow in more shady areas. So as my food forest gets shadier and shadier, as all my trees get bigger and bigger, like this area right here is going to be dominated by shade from this Asian persimmon tree right here, right there. And so yeah, this whole area will eventually get pretty shady. But for now, it's pretty sunny, and at the end of the growing season, I should be able to dig right down in this area and find some nice sweet potatoes to eat. For me personally, right now, it's only my second season of growth here, so we're not harvesting any sweet potatoes. We want them to get more well established. We want them to spread around. And if we're leaving some sweet potatoes in the ground that end up rotting, that's okay. That's organic matter in our soil. So I'm actually more interested in establishing the plant at this time and then using it to help build soil at this time. But the long-term plan is to have an established, species here in this garden that we can go out from time to time and harvest some sweet potatoes to eat. But it's growing pretty well in here. It likes a lot of mulch. The more mulch you have, the better it can get those sweet potato tubers established in the mulch. It will try to do that at each node going down the vine. So it sends a vine out. There's a vine that's sent out right there. There's the end of the vine. Now the green tender tips of these vines are edible also. So you've got a leafy green, and if they're growing in a shady area where they can't get the potato tubers growing well, you can still harvest those leafy greens. What I found on these, it's pretty important that you're in an area that does not have deer, rabbits, and just wildlife in general. It's almost easier to name the wildlife that does not eat sweet potato than it is, because everything loves to eat sweet potatoes, but especially deer and rabbits. Now we're kind of lucky and fortunate, I guess, because we have this big fence around our garden, and we're in a neighborhood of homes, and so we don't have a problem with rabbits and deer here. But if you're in a more wild, open area where deer regularly visit your yard, they will decimate the sweet potato crop. They will eat all the green leaves, and so will the rabbits. So I did have a garden that was more out in nature when I lived in Weeki Wachee, and I had I didn't have difficulty. I was not able to establish sweet potatoes in that garden because the rabbits and the deer just kept eating them. Here's some other areas where I'm trying to get some started. There's a little one there, and there's some. And if you go look around, I've got it scattered around all over. There's some. There's a nice vine right there. It starts way back over here and also goes up. I guess right there is where it starts. And yeah, we've got them scattered around all over, and it's nice and sunny out here. Some of these are eaten by some bugs, but that's okay. It's not a problem, really. Certainly not worth spraying or doing anything like that. It's just part of nature. So yeah, you can grow them as a permanent part of the ecosystem, and just let them die back when the freeze comes. Or if you're further south in Florida, where it almost never freezes, then they will grow and they'll be a nice ground cover. Now here's some back here in a real sunny spot of the garden, and they get all the sun they need here. It's also pretty mulchy, so I would expect to have some nice sweet potatoes to be harvested in this area later when we get ready. Eventually these fig trees will get so big it'll be too shady in here, but they'll still grow the leaves, like I was saying. So yeah, sweet potato is an excellent permaculture type crop and excellent plant for growing as a permanent species, part of the ecosystem, rather than as an annual. Seemed like I had more to say about sweet potato. Here's an area right here we could mulch it better and maybe get some slips started in here. Eventually this will get too shady, but for the next 3 years at least, we've got enough sun that we can get some pretty good tubers growing. Now let's take a look over here in this part of the garden. This is another area where this Asian persimmon will dominate and become, will cast a shade. But right here it's trying to compete with this sunshine mimosa, and it looks like the sunshine mimosa is winning. But between this fig right here, fig tree, and like I said, the persimmon here, and then right behind me here there's a low quiet. So this whole area will get so shady that I won't be able to produce too many potatoes. Won't be enough sun for that. But again, the leaves will be fine. There's some that's already pretty shady down in here underneath this fakahatchee grass and this persimmon tree. And I think as we go back and look in here, there it is. And what you've got, moringa and longevity spinach, in addition to the fakahatchee and the persimmon, trying to cast some shade. Okinawa spinach back here, but there's quite a bit of sunshine mimosa and frog fruit ground covers. So that's what you get with sweet potato. It's a ground cover. It's a root crop and a ground cover crop, or plant. But was there anything else? Sweet potato, as long as you don't have nature eating it all up on you, and as long as you're in a warm enough area, and as long as you have enough sunshine, which we will have for a few more years here. Eventually my goal is to make this entire backyard so shady that I probably couldn't get too many tubers out of my sweet potatoes. But as long as you have all those things, you can grow sweet potatoes. And it's pretty trouble-free. It just kind of sits and waits for conditions to get warm and wet enough. Then it grows like crazy. And then when it gets cold again and drier again in the winter, all its energy is stored in the potato. So it just hangs out and waits for conditions to get better. If you have wild hogs that can get into your space, forget it. They will dig them up. They will eat the tubers and everything. So, I mean, that tells you how great sweet potatoes are. They're highly nutritious. They're one of the world's best foods, really. They've saved people from famine in many parts of the world. Once they were discovered and exported around the world, you know, they've become a really favorite food in places like Asia, very far away from where they're from originally. There's some more over here. And, you know, I could probably get in here and chop and drop back some of this stuff, like, yeah, some of this and some of this Biden's alba. Give this a little bit more sunshine. I could probably do that. But anyway, there you have it. Sweet potato. It's a great choice. If you're in zone, I'm in 9B here. They do great. 9A probably, parts of zone 8 and warmer. Sweet potato, grow it as a perennial, not as an annual. All right, y'all, hope you got something out of this. Y'all take care and happy gardening.